It started with a simple text message, innocuous at first glance, but somehow it lodged itself in the back of my mind. I remember the way my heart skipped a beat when I saw the timestamp didn't quite match the story my partner had told me about where they'd been that night. At first, I tried to shrug it off, convincing myself I was overthinking things, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Days passed, and I found myself replaying conversations in my head, searching for any cracks that might reveal something hidden. There was a subtle change in how they answered my questions, a hesitation just beneath the surface. I could almost feel the distance growing between us, an invisible barrier made up of silence and half-truths. One evening, I caught a glimpse of a message on their phone screen. It was brief, but enough to spark a firestorm of questions. My hands trembled as I put the phone back down, heart pounding against my ribs. What was I supposed to do with this? Confront them? Pretend I hadn't seen anything? The weight of that moment crushed me. I tried to focus on the good times, the moments that made everything feel right, but they were now tainted by suspicion. Every smile, every word felt like it was hiding something. My mind became a battlefield, torn between love and fear, trust and betrayal. I began to notice the smallest inconsistencies, details that didn't add up. One afternoon, I decided to take a different approach. Instead of accusing, I started asking open-ended questions, hoping to catch the truth slipping out naturally. The answers were vague, rehearsed, and my heart sank a little more with each one. It was like trying to hold water in my hands. The more I grasped, the more it slipped through. Late at night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the silence in the room deafening. The trust we had built over time now seemed fragile, like glass ready to shatter at the slightest touch. I wondered when the distance between us had grown so wide and whether I'd ever be able to cross it again. I began to notice small things, a forgotten detail here, a sudden change in routine there that didn't fit the picture I thought I knew. It was as if I was seeing my partner through a distorted lens, someone familiar yet strange. The more I tried to piece it together, the more confusing it became. One evening, I found myself scrolling through old conversations, looking for clues, patterns, anything that could explain the gnawing feeling inside. I stumbled across a message that didn't belong, a name I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped, and the room seemed to tilt beneath me. This was no longer about doubts, this was real. I confronted them that night, voice shaking as I asked the questions I'd been holding back. Their reaction was a mixture of surprise and defensiveness, but also something else, a flicker of guilt that I couldn't ignore. The conversations spiraled quickly into accusations and tears, the air thick with tension and pain. Afterwards, the silence between us was heavier than ever. I found myself walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing or make things worse. Trust felt like a fragile thread stretched thin, and I didn't know if it could be repaired or if it was already beyond saving. I started confiding in close friends, searching for advice and solace. Their perspectives helped me see things from different angles, but also made me realize how much this was affecting me. The emotional exhaustion was real, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of uncertainty. One afternoon, while trying to focus on work, my mind kept drifting back to the half-truths and silent spaces. The constant replay of moments and words was like a broken record in my head. I felt trapped in a loop of confusion and heartache, unable to move forward or find closure. I decided to take a break from everything, from the questions, from my partner, from the turmoil inside. I needed space to breathe, to think, to reconnect with myself. It was the hardest thing I'd done in a long time, but also the most necessary. The silence was deafening, but strangely healing. In that quiet solitude, I began to understand how much I had ignored my own feelings in the name of love, how much I had brushed aside red flags, hoping everything was okay. The truth was there all along, hidden beneath layers of denial and hope. Slowly, I started writing down everything, the doubts, the fears, the moments of joy and pain. Putting it all on paper helped me untangle the mess in my mind and face the reality I'd been avoiding. It was raw and uncomfortable, but also empowering. When I finally felt ready, I reached out to my partner again, this time with clearer boundaries and a quieter heart. We talked more honestly than we had in months, laying bare the fears and mistakes that had built the wall between us. It was painful but necessary, a step towards something new, whatever that might be. Trust isn't a switch to be flipped. It's fragile, earned in moments big and small. I realized that finding out the truth wasn't just about uncovering secrets. It was about confronting the parts of myself that were scared, vulnerable, and aching for honesty. The road ahead is uncertain, filled with questions I don't have answers to yet. But I've learned that facing the truth, no matter how painful, is the only way to heal and grow. Whatever happens next, I know I'm stronger for having walked through the storm. Every day since, I carry the weight of what I discovered, but also the hope that trust can be rebuilt, piece by fragile piece. It's a journey I'm still navigating, with all its twists and turns, heartaches and breakthroughs, and maybe, just maybe, that's where real strength lies. Some nights the silence returns, thick and heavy, reminding me of the fragility of what we had. Yet in the quiet, I find a strange kind of peace, a space to heal, to dream, and to prepare for whatever comes next. The truth, as painful as it was, opened a door to something new, waiting just beyond. I don't have all the answers, and maybe I never will. But sharing this story, this struggle, is my way of reaching out to anyone who's ever felt the sting of doubt, the ache of betrayal, or the desperate hope to trust again. We're not alone in this, and that makes all the difference. The journey continues, with all its messiness and beauty, heartbreak and healing. And I'm here, still standing, still searching, still hoping. Because sometimes the truth is the toughest thing to face, but it's also the only thing that can set us free. I remember the moment the first real doubt crept in, how suddenly everything felt like it was shifting beneath my feet. It was subtle at first, like a faint shadow crossing the warmth of sunlight, but shadows grow, and before long, they can swallow the brightest day. Looking back, I realize how many times I ignored the small signs, the late replies, the vague stories, the nervous laughter that didn't reach the eyes. I wanted to believe, desperately, that everything was fine, but deep down, a quiet voice whispered otherwise. I tried to hold onto the good memories, the laughter, and shared dreams, as if they could act like a shield against the creeping doubt. But memories can be deceiving, painted with the hues we want to see rather than the reality beneath. One night, as rain tapped softly against the window, I sat alone, scrolling through conversations that suddenly felt like puzzles with missing pieces. Each message was a clue, each silence a question. The room around me blurred, swallowed by the storm inside my mind. The hardest part wasn't the discovery itself, but the anticipation, the waiting for answers, the fear of what they might be. It's a cruel kind of limbo where hope and dread dance in a delicate, exhausting balance. When I finally confronted the truth, it was like stepping off a cliff. The fall was terrifying, but the ground beneath was no longer unknown. There was pain, yes, but also clarity, a brutal kind of freedom that comes only from facing what you've been avoiding. In the days that followed, every interaction felt charged with possibility and fear. Would trust rebuild, or was this the end? Could love survive the fractures, or were we too broken to mend? The questions echoed endlessly, with no easy answers. Sometimes I catch myself holding my breath, waiting for a sign, a word, a gesture that might bridge the distance. But trust isn't something given lightly, especially once it's been shattered. It's earned day by day in moments seen and unseen. The process of healing is slow and uneven. Some days feel like progress, others like setbacks. But with each step, I'm learning to listen to myself, to honor my feelings and boundaries, and to accept that some things take time to heal, if they can at all. I've realized that trust issues don't just stem from others. They come from within us, from past wounds and fears that shape how we see the world. Understanding that is part of the journey, a step toward breaking the cycle and finding peace. Sharing this story isn't easy. It's exposing a raw part of myself that's been hurt and vulnerable. But vulnerability is also strength, a bridge that connects us, reminding us that we're not alone in our struggles. Tonight, as the city hums softly outside, I sit with these feelings, the pain, the hope, the uncertainty, and I remind myself that every story is still being written. Mine is no different, an unfolding chapter in a book that's far from finished. I hope that by telling my story, others might find the courage to face their own truths, to confront the shadows lurking beneath the surface. Because sometimes, the hardest truths bring the greatest growth, even if it's not clear at the time. Trust issues are complicated, tangled with emotion, history, and fear. They don't resolve overnight, and sometimes they don't resolve at all. But living with them, facing them, is part of what makes us human, imperfect, fragile, and resilient all at once. The story isn't over. There are still conversations to have, decisions to make, and healing to pursue. But for now, I'm holding on to the small victories, moments of honesty, glimpses of understanding, and the quiet strength to keep moving forward. It's strange how something as simple as a message, a look, or a silence can unravel years of trust. It's a reminder that relationships are delicate, living things that require constant care and attention, and even then, sometimes they falter. I think about the future often, what it might hold, who we might become, and whether the cracks in trust can be sealed or if they will always be visible. These questions linger without easy answers, like shadows at the edge of a fading light. Through all this, I'm learning to be kinder to myself, to accept that feeling hurt doesn't mean I'm weak, and that wanting to trust again doesn't mean I'm naive. It's about finding balance in a world that often feels uncertain. Sometimes I catch myself smiling at small moments, a genuine laugh, a shared silence, a touch that feels real. These moments remind me why trust is worth fighting for, even when it seems impossible. The journey has shown me that truth isn't always black and white. There are shades of gray, moments of confusion, and times when what we want to believe clashes with what is. Navigating that is part of the messy beauty of life. I don't know where this path will lead, but I'm learning to walk it with open eyes and a cautious heart, holding on to hope, but ready to face reality, whatever it may be. Trust is a fragile gift, and once broken, it leaves scars. But those scars tell a story of pain, yes, but also of survival and courage. I'm still writing mine, one uncertain step at a time. The nights are the hardest, when silence fills the room and memories flood in. Yet, even in the quiet, I find strength, a whisper that says, "You are more than this pain, you will find your way." Every day brings new challenges and new chances. I try to hold on to the moments that feel true, that feel like a foundation to rebuild on. It's not easy, but it's real, and that's what matters. There are times when I want to give up, to turn away from the uncertainty and pain, but something inside keeps me tethered to hope, a belief that healing is possible even in the darkest places. I think about the conversations we haven't had, the truths we haven't spoken aloud. Those silences weigh heavily, but they also hold potential, the chance for honesty, for understanding, for growth. Trust issues don't just affect relationships, they affect how we see ourselves. I've had to confront the ways I've doubted my own judgment, my intuition, and my worth. It's a painful but necessary part of healing. Sometimes I find comfort in small routines, a morning coffee, a walk outside, a favorite song. These simple acts ground me when everything else feels unstable, reminding me that life continues even when trust wavers. The hardest truth I've faced is that some questions might never have answers. Learning to live with uncertainty, to accept what I can't change, is part of moving forward. Despite everything, I still believe in the power of trust, in its ability to heal, to connect, to transform. It's fragile, yes, but it's also a beacon guiding us through the storm. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I'm learning to be patient with myself, with my partner, and with the process of rebuilding. Trust takes time, and sometimes it takes more than we ever thought possible. There are moments when the past feels like a shadow I can't escape, but I've come to see that shadows are just places where light hasn't reached yet, and I'm ready to find that light. I'm sharing this because I want others to know they're not alone. Trust issues can feel isolating, but they're part of many people's stories. Talking about it is the first step toward healing. The journey is far from over and the road is winding, but each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory, and I'm holding on to that, the promise of a new day, a new chance, a new path to trust. Trust isn't just about others, it's about trusting ourselves to make the right choices, to set boundaries, and to protect our hearts. That lesson has been hard-won, but invaluable. I'm still learning what it means to forgive, not just others, but also myself. Forgiveness is complicated, messy, and deeply personal. It's part of the journey I'm on, step by uncertain step. Sometimes I wonder if I was naive to believe in us, but then I remember the good moments, the laughter, the care, the dreams we shared. Those memories are real and they deserve to be honored. I've come to understand that love isn't always enough. Trust, honesty, and respect are the pillars that hold a relationship up. Without them, everything else can crumble, no matter how strong the feelings. There are days when I feel like I'm walking through a fog, unsure where I'm going, uncertain what lies ahead. But even in the fog, there's movement, progress, and the possibility of clarity. The hardest moments have taught me the most about resilience, about the capacity to feel deeply, to hurt, and still keep moving forward. That strength is something I carry with me every day. I don't have all the answers, and I don't expect to. Life is messy and unpredictable, but I do know that honesty, no matter how painful, is a foundation worth building on. Sharing this story is part of my healing. It's a reminder that vulnerability isn't a weakness, but a bridge connecting us all through pain, hope, and the search for truth. The nights are often long, filled with thoughts that race and memories that sting. But there are also times when I find my own voice, quiet but steady, reminding me that I am enough. I've learned to listen more to my heart, my mind, and the subtle signals that something isn't right. Trusting myself has become just as important as trusting others. Even in the darkest moments, there's a flicker of hope, a belief that things can get better, that wounds can heal, and that trust can be rebuilt, even if it takes time and effort. I'm still navigating this complex path, with all its twists and turns, its heartbreaks and breakthroughs. And I'm learning that sometimes the journey itself is the destination. Trust issues can feel like a heavy burden, but they're also an invitation to grow, to understand, and to become stronger. I'm choosing to accept that invitation, one step at a time. The truth can be painful, but it's also liberating. It frees us from illusions and allows us to see things as they are, opening the door to real connection and healing. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I'm ready to face it with courage, with honesty, and with an open heart, because that's the only way forward. Sometimes the hardest part is not knowing how the story ends, but maybe that's okay. Maybe the beauty is in the unfolding, the not knowing, and the hope that guides us through. Trust issues have changed me, shaped me, challenged me, but they haven't defined me. I'm still here, still standing, still believing that love and truth can coexist. I hope that by telling my story, I can help others feel seen and understood. That in sharing pain, we find connection, and in connection, the seeds of healing. Every day brings new challenges, but also new chances to rebuild, to forgive, and to trust again. It's a slow process, but it's worth every step. I'm learning to be patient with the process, with others, and with myself. Healing isn't linear, and that's okay. It's part of the journey. There are moments when I feel overwhelmed, when the weight of doubt threatens to pull me under. But then I remember the strength I've found along the way, and I keep moving forward. Trust is fragile, but it's also resilient. It bends, it breaks, but it can also heal and grow stronger. I'm holding onto that hope, even in the hardest times. The story of trust is never simple. It's messy, complicated, and deeply human, and that's what makes it worth telling. I don't have all the answers, but I have learned one thing: facing the truth is the first step toward freedom, and that's a step I'm willing to take. Sometimes the hardest truths open the door to the most profound growth. I'm learning to embrace that, even when it hurts. The journey through trust issues is ongoing, filled with ups and downs, doubts and discoveries. But I'm here for it, ready to face whatever comes next. Trust isn't just about others. It's about learning to trust ourselves, to honor our feelings, and to protect our hearts. That's the most important lesson I've learned. I'm learning to forgive not just others, but myself. Forgiveness is complex, but it's also freeing. It's a gift I'm slowly learning to give. The pain of betrayed trust is real and raw, but it doesn't have to be the end. It can be a beginning, a new chapter of honesty, growth, and maybe even love. I'm still walking this path, uncertain but hopeful, and I'm grateful for the strength I've found along the way, even in the darkest moments. Trust issues have tested me in ways I never imagined, but they've also taught me about resilience, courage, and the power of truth. The silence between us is heavy, but it's also a space for healing, a place where honesty can take root and grow. I don't know where this journey will end, but I'm learning to live with the uncertainty, embracing the process and the growth it brings. Trust is a fragile thread, but it's also a lifeline. I'm holding on, one day at a time, with hope and determination. The truth was hard to face, but it was also a gift, a chance to rebuild, to grow, and to find peace. I'm still healing, still learning, still hoping, and that's enough for now. Sometimes, the most painful moments lead to the greatest transformations. I'm living proof of that. The story isn't over. It's still unfolding, and I'm here for every chapter. Trust issues have changed my world, but they haven't broken me. I'm still standing, still believing, still moving forward. The journey continues, uncertain, messy, and deeply human, and I'm ready to keep walking it. I hope my story helps others find their own path through doubt and pain. We're not alone, and that's a powerful thing. Every step forward is a victory, every moment of honesty is a building block, and every day is a new chance to trust, to love, and to heal. I'm learning to embrace vulnerability as strength and truth as a path to freedom. It's not easy, but it's worth it. The nights are long, but the dawn always comes, and with it, new hope, new light, and new possibilities. Trust issues are complicated, but they're also a part of life. Facing them is hard, but it's also how we grow. I'm still here, bruised but unbroken, scared but hopeful, lost but finding my way. This is my story, a story of trust, doubt, pain, and the search for truth, and it's still being written.